my fellow freedom lovers, sovereign thinkers. This is Ultimate News Podcast. My name is Craig, transmitting from the beautiful swampy mangoes of South Florida, and today's date is Thursday, August 3rd, 2017. And first off, I'd like to send my condolences to the friends and family of Mike Hurley, who recently passed away last week. I just found this out a few days ago. He used to be in a hardcore band from Miami called Tension, straight edge and all that. Mike Hurley's always been a very good, kind gentleman. Always has spirit and loves music. Plus, I found out too that Jim Mars has recently passed. I noticed he was at health issues. He was informed by Jack Blood via Facebook on that. He just passed away yesterday. I think it was yesterday, a couple days ago. And he was an investigative journalist, real fantastic. He talked about, was one of the first folks that did a college course on the Kennedy assassination conspiracies, which had a lot of merit. It was behind it. And it's how to teach vigilance too, on how government wants to be parasitic towards the people of the United States. He wrote a book called The Fourth Reich, Ruled by Secrecy, and many others. And he was a brilliant gentleman, that's all I have to say. You can hear his interviews, hear some of his books. All I gotta say is, may his soul be forever free, my friends. And hopefully we will meet again, Mike Hurley, and hopefully we'll meet Jim Mars. Now you folks became guardian spirits. And this is why, folks, I always tell everyone out there, keep on spreading the love and so forth. It's always been authentic after that. There's some folks I haven't really talked to in a while, but I always still think about them. Tell them I love them too. Plus, the ones I made errors in my life, which should have never happened, I admit that. And hopefully they'll forgive me, and one day we'll meet, chit-chat a lot of things, a lot of years of catching up. So, and a lot of stuff is happening. Everyone's heard about the whole IT scandal with the Debbie Wasserman Schultz crew. Looks like she's in hot water. Plus, the House Judicial Committee is requesting another council to do some big investigations on Comey, Loretta Lynch, and Hillary Clinton. Plus, this includes closure on the DNC that will happen with Bernie Sanders. And I believe the people who support this man, Senator Sanders, that was running for president in 2016, should jump on board and make this happen. Let them know, yes, we are behind you in this honest investigation. Regardless of what your political partisan views are, political views, this is tyranny at its finest. Just a very good example. And like I said before, even with the whole Ehrman, the Alwan family scandal, the whole thing about Russia and the collision and Trump-Russia collision, it's always been a distraction, and that should be in the toilet, flushed. Flush it out. Even the people that can't stand the president should think a lot bigger things are happening right now as we speak. So, and I'm at CJ's Java Lounge, located at 400 Southwest 1st Avenue, Suite 1, along the river of Fort Lauderdale. And Yacht Club, New River Yacht Club, which is along the southwest section of the Andrews Avenue Bridge. And I'd give a shout out to the Go app. They're telling me, gave me a little rundown what's happening. It's going to be Saturday, September 9th, Fort Lauderdale Craft Beer Summer Games. It's in Esplanade Park from 12 noon to 8 p.m. located at 4 Southwest 2nd Street, which is right next to the Brown Performing Arts Center and across from the IMAX Theater. So you get your tickets on Eventbrite, Eventbrite. Alright, it's the Fort Lauderdale Craft Beers Summer Games. So you could check that out. Pretty cool. I'm about to go there myself. I'll bring my anti-UN flag, probably bring my dog, and talk about 9/11. Great time. Just talk about how the 3 buildings came down by 2 airplanes. Yeah. And with finesse, that is. Talk about the New World Order instead of saying inside job. Like, use finesse. You plant the seeds and get people to think, my friend. So that'd be a good time to do that. So, speaking of Sessions, I always see the pros and cons of him. Like, he just thinks he's trying to do is great, and there's areas I am critical of, and I'm not the only one. This one here came from newsbuzz.com, where media integrity matters. And I know I'm on a different, you may hear more background noise. What happened with my other headsets, where it took a dump, like me compromising. If I tap it lightly, my mic signal just was kaput. Happened to be the last year, so more like a stereo listening thing. Hopefully, folks can expect it for the time being. That's okay. So, it's right here by John Whitehead, entitled Police for Profit, Jeff Sessions and Co.'s Deadly Vow Plot to Rob Us Blind. And the quote here, laws are no longer made by rational process of public discussion. They are made by process of blackmail and intimidation. They are executed in the same manner. The typical lawmaker of today is a man wholly devoid of principle, a mere encounter in a grotesque and lavish game. If the right pressure could be applied to him, he would be cheerfully favored of polygamy, astrology, or cannibalism. It is the aim of the Bill of Rights. It has any remaining aim at all to curb such prehensile gentry. Its function is to set a limitation upon their power to harry and oppress us to their own private profit. That's by H.L. Mencken. And it says here, let's not mince words. Jeff Sessions, the nation's top law enforcement official, will not recognize the Constitution. He ran right smack into it. But the head of the Trump administration Justice Department enjoys being the architect of a police state who is just painfully, criminally clueless. Sessions has a great job of thus far sidestepping the Constitution at every turn. Most recently, under the guise of fighting crime, Sessions gave police the green light to rob, pilfer, steal, thieve, swipe, prolurian, flitch, and liberate American taxpayers of even more of their hard-earned valuables, especially if it happens to be a significant amount of cash used by any means, fair or foul. Yes, can we say extortion? So what Jeff Sessions is saying, extortion is legal if you wear a badge. In this case, the foul method favored by Sessions and Co. is a civil asset forfeiture, which allows police and prosecutors to seize your car or other property, sell it, and use the proceeds to fund agency budgets, all without so much as charging with the crime. Under the equitable sharing program, police turn asset forfeiture cases over to federal agents who process seizures and then 80% of the proceeds to the police. In Michigan, police actually get up to keep up to 100% of forfeited property. Hooray! Fidel Castro will be extremely proud. This incentive-driven excuse for stealing from the citizenry is more accurately referred to as police for profit or death by cop, despite the fact that 8% of these asset forfeiture cases result in no charge against the property owner. Challenging these takings in court can cost the owner more than the value of the confiscated property itself. As a result, most property owners either give up the fight or chalk the confiscation up to government corruption, police, leaving other government officials to reap the benefits. And boy, do they reap the benefits. These agencies have used their ill-gotten gains to buy guns, armored cars, electronic surveillance gear, reports the Washington Post. They also spent money on luxury vehicles, travel, and clown named Sparkles. Incredibly, these asset forfeiture scams have become so profitable for the government that, according to the Washington Post, in 2014, law enforcement took more stuff from people than the burglars did. As the Post notes, the Treasury and Justice Departments deposited more than $15 billion into their respective asset forfeiture funds. That same year, the FBI reports that burglary losses toppled at $3.5 billion. In 2015, the federal government seized nearly $22.6 billion worth of airplanes, houses, cash, jewelry, cars, and other items under the guise of the civil asset forfeiture. According to USA Today, accidental evidence suggests that allowing departments to keep forfeiture proceeds might tempt them to use funds unwisely. For example, consider a 2015 scandal in Romulus, Michigan, where police officers used funds forfeit from illicit drug and prostitution stings to pay for illicit drugs and prostitutes. Memo to the rest of my fellow indentured servants who are living in those dark era of government corruption, incompetence, and general ineptitude. This is not how justice in America is supposed to work. We're not ruled by a government so consumed with squeezing every last penny out of the population that they are completely unsensitive if essential freedoms are trampled in the process. Our freedoms aren't just being trampled, however, they are being eviscerated. Every turn, we the people are getting swindled, cheated, conned, robbed, raided, pickpocketed, mugged, deceived, defrauded, double-crossed, and fleeced by governmental and corporate shareholders of the American police state to make a profit at taxpayers' expense. Americans no longer have to be guilty to be stripped of their property rights and liberties. All you have to be is in the possession of something that the government wants. If you happen to have something the government wants badly enough, trust me, their agents will go to any lengths to get it. If government can arbitrarily freeze, seize, or lay claim to your property, money, land, or possessions under government asset forfeiture schemes, you have no true rights. So you know what they're saying? It's like more of a centralized communist manifesto, I would say. Yeah. Karl Marx will be climaxing right now. Here's how the whole ugly business works in a nutshell. First, government agents, usually the police, use a broad array of tactics to profile, identify, target, and arrange to encounter in a traffic stop or train, in an airport, in public or in private. Those individuals who might be traveling with a significant amount of cash or possess property of value. Second, these government agents, empowered by the courts and the legislature, seize property, cash, jewelry, homes, and other valuables they suspect to be connected to criminal activity. Then here's the kicker. Whether or not that any crime is actually proven to have taken place without any charges being levied against the property owner or any real due process afforded the unlucky victim, the property is seized by the government, which often divvies it up with the local police who help with the initial seizure. In a Kafkaesque turn of the screw, the burden of proof falls on the unfortunate citizenry who must mount a long, complicated, expensive legal campaign to prove their innocence in order to persuade the government that it should return the funds they stole. Not surprisingly, very few funds ever get returned. How sweet it is, right? To be victimized by you. I'm talking about the parasites in government. It is a new, twisted form of guilt by association, only is not citizenry being accused of wrongdoing just their money, or as having particularly vulnerable to this modern-day form of highway robbery. For instance, police stole $201,000 in cash from Lisa Leonard because the money which Leonard planned to use to buy a house for her son was being transported on the public highway, also used by drug traffickers. Despite the fact Leonard was innocent of wrongdoing, the Supreme Court upheld the theft on a technicality. Thank you, Supreme Court, for telling me I'm a piece of garbage without burden of proof. Police stole $2,000 cash from Annie Busby, which she planned to use to complete the purchase of a restaurant, and threatened to hand over her children to the CPS if she resisted. How about the CPS's kids? You probably can't do it anyway because their sex life is so pathetic. She's one of the few to win most of her money back in court. And the police stole $22,000 cash from Jerome Channel, which he planned to use as a down payment on a home, simply because a drug dog had alerted police to his presence in his car. After challenging the seizure in court, Channel eventually succeeded in having most of his money returned, although the state refused to compensate him for his legal and travel expenses. You're my hero, state. Police stole $8,500 cash and jewelry from Roderick Daniels, which he planned to use to purchase a new car, and threatened him with jail and money laundering charges if he didn't sign a waiver forfeiting his property. Yes, someone like that would make those threats. They should shove that waiver up their rectum. Okay, and I say that in good faith. Police stole $6,000 cash from Jennifer Boatwright and Ron Henderson and threatened to turn in their young children over Child Protective Services if they resisted. Tejada, Texas is a particular hotbed of highway forfeiture activity, so much that police officers keep pre-signed, pre-notarized documents on hand so they can fill in what property they are seizing. Can we say rubber stamp? Of course, because they're special. Boss hogs, yeah. As the Huffington Post explains, these police procedure operations have become little more than criminal shakedowns. Police in some jurisdictions have run forfeiture operations that would be difficult to distinguish from criminal shakedowns. Police can pull motorists over, find some amount of cash or other property of value, claim some vague connection to illegal activity then present their motorists with a choice. If they handle the property or they could be on their way. You know what? One day some of these guys need a good penile microphone in court. Or do it right in front of them on a video, see how tough they really are. Otherwise, they face arrest, seizure of property, a drug charge, or a probable night in jail, and the hassle of a multiple return trip to the state or city where they are pulled over, and the cost of hiring a lawyer to fight both the seizure and the criminal charge. Isn't it hard to see why even innocent motorists would opt to simply hand over the cash and move on? Yeah, because they want you guys, everyone out there to go, hi, I'm your doormat, police. I'm your doormat, you corrupt ones. I'm a real, genuine American. Tread on me, and I will go for you. Unsurprisingly, these asset forfeiture scams have become so profitable for the government that they have expanded their reach beyond the nation's highways. According to USA Today, the U.S. Department of Justice received $2.01 billion in forfeited items in 2013, and since 2008, local and state law enforcement nationwide has raked in some $3 billion in forfeitures under the federal equitable sharing program. So now it's not just the driver who has to hurry about getting the shakedown. Any American unwise enough to travel with cash is fair game for the government pickpockets. In fact, the government, the Drug Enforcement Administration, or DEA, has been colluding with the Transportation Security Administration, TSA, with another bunch of Uncle Toms with badges, and local police departments to seize a small forfeiture in cash from American travelers using the very tool, scanners, spies, and surveillance devices. They claim were necessary to catch terrorists. Mind you, TSA agents already have a reputation for stealing from travelers, but clearly the government is not concerned about protecting the citizenry from its own wolfish tendencies. No, the government bureaucrats aren't looking to catch criminals. If so, they should be arresting themselves. Absolutely. Hey, Jeff Sessions, go to jail. Turn yourself in, please. Think about for a moment. You pay a hefty fee just to be able to walk free. It's called income tax. As former presidential candidate Ron Paul recognizes, the founding fathers never intended a nation where citizens would pay nearly half of everything they earn to the government. And if you refuse to pay any of that so-called income tax, you'll be severely fined and or arrested and put in jail. One more thing, you don't really own the property. That is your house or your land. Even when you pay off the mortgage, if you fail to pay your property taxes, government agents will evict you and take your home. See, right there, if you read the state constitutions as well, folks, including Florida, property taxes are unconstitutional, even on the state level. All right, this is not freedom. There was a time in our history where our forebears said enough is enough and stopped paying taxes. A penance compared to what we are forced to shut out in taxes today, to what they considered an illegitimate government. They stood their ground and refused to support a system that was slowly choking out any attempts at self-governance, and which refused to be held accountable for its crimes against the people. The resistance sowed the seed for the revolution that would follow. Unfortunately, the 200 plus years since we established our own government, we've let the corporate elite and number-crunching bureaucrats pilfer our bank accounts to such an extent that we're back where we started. Once again, we got a despotic regime with a trigger ruler doing as it pleases. Yeah, glamour man. They want the word revolver and run them glamour man. They crack the 50 deep to tell them. That's right. But what if we didn't pull out of our pocketbooks and pony up the federal government's outrageous demand for more money? What if we just didn't line up to drop our hard-earned dollars into corporate collection bucket? No questions asked about how will it be spent. What if instead of meekly tolerating the government's ongoing efforts to rob us blind, we did something about it? As it makes it clear in my book, Battlefield America, the War in the American People, if the government can just take from you what they want, when they want, and then use it however they want, you can't claim to do anything more than the serf in the land they think of as theirs. Exactly. They treat you as a number, a whore bag, or other words, a demagogue. It is up to we the people to demand reform. These injustices will continue as long as it remains silent. As American journalist H.L. Mencken observed, the American of today, in fact, probably enjoys less personal freedom, liberty, than any other man of Christendom, and even his political liberty has fast succumbing to the dogma that certain theories of government are virtuous and lawful, and other apparent and felonious. The laws limiting the radius of its free activity multiplied year by year, it is now practically impossible for him to exhibit anything describable as genuine individuality, either in action or in thought, without running afoul of some harsh and unintelligible pounding. It would be surprised no impartial observer if the goddess of liberty were taken off the silver dollars to make room for a vast relief of a policeman in a spiked helmet. Moreover, this gradual and of late rapidly progressive decay of freedom goes almost without challenge. The American has grown so accustomed to the denial of his constitutional rights and to minute regulation of his conduct by swarm of spies, letter openers, informers, and agent provocateurs that he no longer makes any serious protest. In other words, make them hear you. And if they won't listen, then I suggest it's time for what Martin Luther King called, for when government doesn't listen, militant, non-violent resistance. And right there, that quote, Mr. McCann, is right. A little rebellion now and then is good, my friend. And now, with the militant, non-violent resistance, we got technology as well on our side. We got the internet. People are being exposed. Folks are waking up little by little. I'm not saying it's happening overnight, because it's not going to happen. When someone says that, they're not doing a damn thing. And everyone out there needs to take the initiative. You are natural-born persons, regardless of where you're from, what you look like, etc., as long as you don't violate others. This right here is criminal. What Jeff Sessions and his dumbed-down, pathetic Uncle Tom and Aunt Jemima cohorts, all levels, crying to Donald Trump and go, oh, but we need the civil asset forfeiture thing to fight the war on drugs. You know what? Go work as a greeter at Walmart for all I care. See, people like that are nothing more than treating garbage that makes them less than a man than bandit army. Okay? Plain and simple. But on the other hand, too, we can look at the 10th Amendment, all right? It says here, the 10th Amendment Senator, this came out in the 30s by Michael Meharry. It says here, states can't thwart new DOJ asset forfeiture policy. As it reads here, Attorney General Sessions wants to ramp up federal asset forfeiture. State action, more accurately, inaction, can stop them. Earlier this month, the U.S. Department of Justice issued policy guidance on federal asset forfeiture, directing the federal government to aggressively seize any property, even if they never charged the owner with the crime. So if you see Jeff Sessions, folks, see it's his property, including his granddaughter. See how he really feels. Yeah, how about you? He'll be like, oh, you shouldn't be doing that to me. I'm the Attorney General. Yeah, you should just wear a muzzle and a ball and chain around your ankle. And what would Jesus say? Because remember, he claims to be a Christian, right? Absolutely. And including in states that require a criminal conviction to complete forfeiture. So he said he believed that he can go to, the federal government can go to any state that has certain nullification. They can do what they want. That's called centralization. That's called encroachment. Hopefully Jeff Sessions, I'm just wondering, where do you study law from? From a Kmart? Maybe, please. The DOJ issued a directive implements Sessions for an order to ramp up asset forfeiture, and Paula Reed tweeted this on July 19th saying, just in, new asset forfeiture policy, police can seize property from people not in charge of crime, even in states where it has been banned. Under the federal law, state and local police can pass asset forfeiture cases off to federal prosecutors. So if the local and state are incompetent, they can go to the feds. Hey, thank you for selling your sovereignty. You're going to support this. Once the feds adopt a case, The forfeiture then moves forward under federal law, often according less protection for individuals than state law. By placing the case under federal jurisdiction, state and local law enforcement can bypass the stringent provisions under state law, such as the requirement for a criminal conviction and collect up to 80% of the proceeds from forfeited assets via the federal equitable sharing program. Yes, extortion, RICO, racketeering, RICO, is all there. Yes, I am saying that to Jeff Sessions and his lackeys, bunch of thieves, parasites of society. In 2015, Holder issued a directive limiting federal adoption of state and local forfeiture cases. The cases involving public safety. In December that year, it stopped equitable sharing payments due to budget constraints. The DOJ resumed payments in 2016. The new DOJ order reiterates full support of adoption, direct federal law enforcement agencies to aggressively utilize it and to set stage to expand in the future. Can you see that? Expand in the future. Let's do a shot of coffee. Sorry about that. During the speech, Sessions hinted the adoptive forfeiture provides an opportunity to expand it to federal forfeiture. Adoptive forfeiture are appropriate, he says, in sharing with our partners. So who's his hero? Benito Mussolini, Adolf Hitler, Fidel Castro, or all the above? I can say all the above. Institute of Justice Attorney Everett Johnson told Washington Post, this is clearly a way to help state and local police skirt restrictions imposed by state governments. Yep, so encroachment once again. They're very illiterate when it comes to Federalist Papers 46 by James Madison. This is a federalism issue and a part to federal adoptive forfeiture will circumvent limitations on civil forfeiture that are imposed by state legislators. The number of justice is saying we're going to help state and local law enforcement to get around those reforms. According to the Institute of Justice, 13 states have 13 states have reformed their laws, can only proceed with forfeiture after criminal conviction. This doesn't mean police can't seize property incidental to an arrest, but the states can't keep it without a guilty verdict. If the individual is not convicted or the state never files charges, it must return the property. Through federal adoption, police and prosecutors can bypass stringent state process, complete forfeiture to the federal system, and then collect a big chunk of the proceeds. The fifth federal directive underscores the importance of explicitly prohibiting state and local law enforcement agencies from passing cases off to the federal government. California provides a good blueprint. The Golden State has some of the strongest state-level restrictions on civil asset forfeiture in the country. Law enforcement often bypasses state restrictions by allowing the feds to adopt their cases. Then they crashed in the equitable sharing money. They cashed in on the equitable sharing money. According to the report by the Institute of Justice, Police for Profit, California was the top recipient of civil asset forfeiture proceeds between 2000 and 2013. Revealed how often police were taking advantage of the federal process. During the 2016 session, the state closed the loophole. Well, I gotta say, I don't like Jerry Brown, but I thank him for making that happen. Hey. Other states have also prohibited passing off asset forfeiture cases to the feds as part of the civil asset forfeiture reform, including New Mexico, Arizona, and Nebraska. While other states have implemented forfeiture reform measures, leaving the loophole open, including Ohio, Iowa, and Connecticut. In order to make state forfeiture reforms truly effective, and slow Sessions pushed the ramp up federal forfeiture across the U.S. needs to ensure their asset forfeiture process includes the following language: closing the loophole. A law enforcement agency or prosecuting authority may not enter into agreement to transfer or refer seized property to a federal agency directly, indirectly by adoption, through an intergovernmental joint task force, or by other means for the purposes of forfeiture litigation, and instead must refer the seized property to appropriate local or state prosecuting authorities for forfeiture legislation under this chapter, unless the seized property includes U.S. currency in excess of $50,000. This paragraph preempts laws by township, municipal, county, and other governments in the state which regulate criminal and civil and criminal forfeiture. Sessions wants to roll back the clock on an undo all of the progress made by curbing asset forfeiture over the last few years, but states can't stop him dead in his tracks. All they have to do is simply refuse to participate in the federal equitable sharing program. Don't allow state and local police to transfer the case. Just say no. Absolutely. And this is why, my friends, it can be done. The state and local authorities can make it happen in 13 states. I mean, Florida is one of them, but it still needs some work. But everything's got to be done by steps. Pursue it. Keep it going. And even, if I'm correct, even a jury notification, you should say, demand the person's property be returned immediately at 100%. To hell with these vultures. Remember, government parasites on society, and this has to stop. The war on drugs is a sham. Assuming, if I assume in front of a judge or a cop, they'll give me an attitude. But what makes cops special? What, do they have a badge and won't do training? No, they're governmental delegates. That's what law enforcement is, according to Black Law's dictionary. Look it up and correct me if I'm mistaken. However, the truth is, it can be done. And here's another thing people need to start looking at once again: the anti-commandeering doctrine. J. Printz, Sheriff, Coroner, Ravalli County, Montana, and Sheriff Richard Mack with the United States. So it's mainly about the Brady Law, and it was a 10th Amendment doctrine, you could say. So I'm going to add that to the memo, so all you folks out there, everyone can take the initiative on making this happen. Say no to the feds coming into the states, or let the local and state officials not bypass. Don't let them bypass. You tell them, do it, your ass is recalled, or not get reelected. Time to put these bastards' feet to the fire. That's what we the people is about, and it's a form of rebellion, which is now and then is good. What Thomas Jefferson once said. Okay, enough of that, my friends. I think this is things very interesting, but it has to pursue it. So to all you Trump supporters out there, you better start fighting against this as well, because it can happen to you. So it doesn't matter what your political views are, who you voted for or not, this has to be exterminated. So next one here came from the Florida Bulldog. Came out yesterday. And says here, huge debt relief fraud in Pompano Beach, bilks $70 million from thousands of victims. This is by Joseph A. Mann Jr. from FloridaBulldog.org. And a debt relief scheme that affected about 15,000 people across the country at three telemarketing executive headquarters in Pompano Beach and using branch in Panama bilked victims out of an estimated $70 million according to the Federal Attorney General's office. The Federal Trade Commission and the attorney working to retrieve assets in the complex case. The civil complaint filed recently in the federal court in Fort Lauderdale by the General Attorney's Office, and FTC alleges that telemakers and several of those companies managed for the Pompano Beach office, building offers to consolidate personal debts for customers, pay off, settle, or obtain other dismissals for these obligations and improve their credit rating. Customers were allegedly convinced to pay from a few hundred to more than $1,000 per month to one of the so-called debt relief companies that were part of the scheme, according to the complaint. In most cases, no payments were made to reduce these debts. Moreover, customers ended up becoming victims. They incurred even greater indebtedness thanks to fake loans obtained from the companies. Loans that were supposedly being used to pay their pre-existing debt. Such customers were sued by their old creditors or were forced into bankruptcy. Ooh, man. Running since 2013, the headcount reaching about 150 managers, telemarketers, administrative staff, others. This South Florida-based operation was shut down in May by a federal judge issuing a preliminary injunction and asset freeze order affecting the individuals and companies involved. The court appointed a receiver, Jonathan E. Perlman, a shareholder at the Miami-based law firm Genovis, Joblove, and Batista, an attorney with extensive experience in receivership roles. His formidable task is to sift through the maze of companies, accounts, and financial operations to recover funds from defrauded customers, defendants, human and corporate. On May 8th, the FTC of the state of Florida filed a complaint seeking an injunction with the District Court of the Southern District of Florida, case number 17-CV-60907-Altanaga. The defendants in this case were Jeremy D. Marcus, who was described as by the receiver as the CEO and the owner of the group of companies in the debt relief operation, Craig Davis Smith, the COO, and also an owner, and Yesbit Segrea, an executive who ran the office in Panama, plus dozens of corporate defendants controlled by the individual defendants. These included 321 Loans Inc., Financial Freedom National Inc., Helping America Group, Marine Career Institute, Seat Frontiers Inc., Insta Help America Inc., and Breeze Financial Institute Solutions. Receiver Perlman believes that there could be more than 80 companies involved as a corporate and related defendant. But 23 are currently in investigation targets since they offer the best potential for recovery, he told the Florida Bulldog. The companies operate as a common enterprise through an ill-related network with commingled funds and all allegedly controlled by 3 defendants, the complaint said. According to the FTC, the Florida Attorney General's complaint, these are the basics. The defendants made their money by promising customers to large debt consolidation loans at attractive rates, or by telling customers they were taking over the task of servicing consumers' pre-existing debt and relief accounts. In both cases, customers paid the defendants millions of dollars under the false premise that these alleged debt relief companies would pay off, settle to obtain dismissal or consumer debts, and improve their credit ratings. Woo! In fact, there were no actual loans. Defendants kept most of the loan payments and paid very little or nothing toward reducing their customers' debt. Eventually, the victims found out that no one was paying their original debts. Their accounts were in default and their credit scores had suffered. In some cases, original creditors filed lawsuits against the consumers and some were forced into bankruptcy. One scam victim, Derek S. from Vero Beach, told his experience with the debt relief group in an April affidavit. 2 years ago, he said he did a Google search for a debt consolidation firm and found Helping America Group, one of the corporate defendants. At that time, I was current on my debts and was making a minimum payments monthly. He said in the affidavit, I was looking for a company to consolidate my debt and to make one lower monthly payment. A fake loan. After call HAG or HAG and learning about their services, Derek was told that another defendant firm, 321 Loans, would make the loan to him and would pay off his creditors. The loan was the fake was a total of $10,835 plus interest at 9.99%. He was also told to stop paying his creditors, not to talk to them, and that another group firm, Breeze Financial, will help improve his credit score. He started making monthly payments to paralegal support, so another firm in the group and subsequently called several times to ask for a progress report and was told it would take time to negotiate the debt. A few months later, he called for 2 of his creditors, which they say never heard of, HAG or 321. He tried to cancel his agreement, but were not allowed to do so until he had filed complaints with the Florida Attorney General and the Better Business Bureau last December. 321 Financial, another element in the scheme, issued a cancellation letter and after a refund of $200.13. I paid thousands of dollars to HAG 321 and they did not do anything they promised. He said my debt effectively had been doubled. The joint state-federal complaint filed last May states the defendants were in violation of the Federal Trade Commission the FTC's Telemarketing Act covering consumer fraud and abuse, and the FTC's Telemarket Sales Rule (TSR). The Florida Attorney General brought the action under the state's Deceptive and Unfair Trade Practices Act and the Telemarketing Act. Defendants who are freed have denied any wrongdoing, while the current case against the defendant group is a civil action. A criminal suit could be filed in the future, according to an attorney familiar with fraud actions. The FTC and the Florida Attorney General's office declined to comment on the progress of the case since it's still open. Finding customers and making the pitch. The scheme attracted potential victims by using internet advertising and websites, direct mail, and unsolicited phone calls. The defendants also brought presumably illegitimate debt relief firms and required their clients' name as well as personal and financial information. Here's how it allegedly worked. Companies in the group used ads on their websites or sent personal letters to potential clients' home address. Sometimes falsely identify themselves as nonprofits. They offered low-interest loans so a consumer could combine all debts and make one payment at a more favorable interest rate. So it's like going debt on debt, right? For example, a typical letter sent by one of the group's companies, 321 Loans, offered a $35,000 at 4 to 7% interest to cover debts for credit cards, private loans, account collections, medical bills, etc. The letter said the credit was pre-approved. Oh yeah, great. The group supplied in its Pompano Beach telemarketing staff training manuals that taught the art of sale. Some nuggets from the manual: the more you spend qualifying and researching the prospect, the less time you will waste pitching unqualified people for hours to find they have no dollars, and you remember your ABCs, always be closing. When people called a customer approval center, or when sales staff made unsolicited phone calls, prospects were told that a loan would be made to cover the full amount of their debt, plus interest. The loan would be paid off all indebtedness, and the lucky consumer would only have to make monthly payments that were much less than they were paying. The companies told consumers they could provide low-interest loans because the nonprofit status allowed them to borrow at favorable rates. While potential clients were still on the phone, telemarketers emailed them a link to a document designed to take a loan agreement. Consumer clicked on highlighted areas to initial and sign the agreement, which committed them to pay back loans and fees, whatever the applicable 50 to 75 page document, in fact, contradicted the sales pitch made by the telemarketers. Consumers agreed to have their bank accounts debited immediately for their first loan repayment or for a processing fee. Then monthly repayments were automatically taken from their accounts, ranging from $200 to over $1,000. Few annual payments were made to creditors, and the consumer was said $8,000 in owed debts would own the pre-existing amount plus the $8,000 loan taken from a defendant company. When consumers were told by original creditors that none of the bills had been paid, dismissed, or settled, defendant companies strung them along with false explanations, such as more time was needed to validate the consumer's debt or confirm payoff amounts. Clients who called to complain were given excuses and treated badly. Sometimes only a contact number available was disconnected. Wow. Another aspect of the scam, the group, using mostly outside legal counsel, worked with some clients who were sued by creditors before the operation was shut down in May, according to the receiver amended first interim report filed in June. In these cases, and I'm like got lost here. Oh shoot! So in these cases, the group's attorneys ironically large claim for clients related to supposed victims of the Telephone Consumer Protection Act or the Consumer Collection Practices Act by credit card companies. The clients only received a small portion of the damages. For example, one client received $1,000 from a law firm working with the group after the credit card company paid a total of $8,000. In many cases, followed a small pattern, and some customers apparently were not aware of the amount of the total settlement. Recovering assets for victims. I'm essentially CEO of this defunct enterprise. Permanent, the court appointed receiver to the Florida Bulldog. My main goal is to conserve and protect all assets of the receivership. Assets, cash at a range of the real estate, including 50,000 square foot headquarters building at 1410 Southwest 3rd Street, Pompano Beach. Other tenants in the building who were unrelated to the defendant group continue to provide revenue to the receivership. So far, the receivership has only served over 30 banks with orders for records and continue to look for other financial institutions that might be a source of assets. Permanent, a Florida Bulldog reporter that the information of his office has gathered so far indicated that the amount taken from the customers has been $7 million and continue to rise. It will increase as more bank records come in. The estimate in May was $50 million. We come in unannounced and serve papers to all institutions we know about, he said. We try to obtain the money and other assets voluntarily. If not, you take it to the judge. While receivership is identifying seizing assets related to the case, reimbursements to victims will come to the asset search is completed and current civil proceedings resolved. Permanent's team has set up a website called www.321loanreceivership.com to inform victims and the public about developments in the receivership process. Currently, he is a temporary receiver but has petitioned to the court to be named permanent receiver. Interesting. So this is one thing you gotta always be aware of, folks. When you got these people try to call you up and you're in like so-called dire straits, you're gonna try to be their Lord and Saviors. There's so many ways trying to scam people. We all been swindled one way or the other. This is why, like, if someone calls me up and tries to tell me some garbage, I just tell them hello, not interested, goodbye, and hang up on them. Or I just burn, or I send them something. I'll send them something where they had to go F yourself and bring it back to them. That's how I see things. But it's a real shame when a lot of these good folks out there are being desperate and they get these little, like, miracles. I call them miracle correspondences, like the genie come out of the bottle, you gotta be free. Always gotta remain vigilant, my friends. And I'm not here to judge anyone to get caught in these scams. Like I said, everyone got victimized one way or the other. We have to be vigilant towards these sons of bitches, and it's really apparent. You got folks out there, vampires, who want to take advantage of these individuals. And so, as far as I'm concerned, they should be in debtor's prison. They should be getting ball and chain, hitting rocks for their entire lives until their arms fall off and puke and die. That's how I look at it. You should be processed. That's a form of involuntary servitude. It is legit because it's time of punishment. So, folks, it's okay to say no. Try to keep things simple as possible. Even if you have family members in overall situations, tell them, look, just give them the truth. Don't try to create miracles to spoil them. I think in the bigger picture, but there are a few exceptions. So the whole thing is, my friends, is try to make your life as simple as possible. All right, cool. So I'll be right back. Okay, cool. So actually, this next article, people should really need to pay attention to. This is from TeknoAXE. News and Trends, and this is one's entitled Facebook. You don't own your face, we do. This is written by Jared Bennett, and it came out yesterday, to be exact. It says here, Facebook massive facial recognition database grows each time you tag a face to a person's name. Does that give Facebook the permanent right to catalog your face? What about your clothing and your posture? All these can identify you on the street without your knowledge of consent. Technocrats are data addicts who can never get enough data. As TN editor. When Chicago resident Carlo Lackeys joined Facebook in 2009, he did what the 390 million others users of the world's largest social network had already done. He posted photos of himself and friends tagging the images with names. But what Lackeys, now 34, didn't know that every time he was tagged, Facebook stored his digitized face in a growing database. Angered This was done without his knowledge. Lackeys sued Facebook in 2015 as part of the class action lawsuit filed in Illinois state court, accusing the company of violating a one-of-a-kind Illinois law that prohibits collection of biometric data without permission. The suit is ongoing. Facebook denies the charges, arguing the law doesn't apply to them. But behind the scenes, the social network giant is working feverishly to prevent other states from enacting a law like the ones in Illinois. Since the suit was filed, Facebook stepped up to its lobbying, according to records and interviews with lawmakers. But rather than wading into policy fights itself, Facebook has turned to the lower-profile trade groups as the Internet Association based in Washington, D.C., and the Illinois-based Trade Association, TIA, to head off bills that will give users more control over how their likeness are used or whom they can be sold to. This effort is part of a wider agenda. Tech companies whose business model is based on collecting data about its users and using it to sell ads frequently oppose consumer privacy legislation, and privacy advocates says Facebook is uniquely aggressive in opposing all forms of regulation on its technology, and the strategy has been working. Bills that will create a new consumer data protection for facial recognition were proposed in at least 5 states this year: Washington, Montana, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Alaska, but all failed, except the Washington bill, which only passed after its scope was limited. No federal law regulates how companies use biometric privacy or facial recognition, and no lawmaker has ever introduced a bill to do so. That's prompt. The Government Accountability Office concluded in 2015 that the privacy issues has been raised by financial recognition technology serve as yet another example of the need to adapt federal privacy law to reflect new technologies. Congress did, however, roll back privacy protections in March by allowing internet providers to sell browser data without the consumer's permission. Facebook said on its website it won't ever sell users' data, but the company is poised to cash in on facial recognition in other ways. The market for facial recognition is forecast to grow to $9.6 billion by 2022, according to an analyst at Allied Market Research, as companies look for ways to authenticate and recognize repeat customers in stores or other specific ads on base customer gender or age. Facebook is working on advanced recognition technology that will put names to faces even if they are obscure and identify people by their clothing and posture. Facebook has filed patents for technology allowing Facebook to tailor ads based on users' facial expression. But despite the lack of regulation due to technology appears to be worrying politicians on both sides of the aisle and the privacy advocates too. During a hearing, the House Government Oversight Committee in March, Chairman Jason Chavez, Republican from Utah, who left Congress in June, warned facial recognition can be used in a way that chills free speech and free association by targeting people attending certain political meetings, protest, churches, or other types of places in public. Even the one inventors of facial recognition is worried. It pains me to see technology that I hope to invent being used in a way that is not that I had in mind in respect to privacy, of Joseph Attic, who helped develop facial recognition in 1990 at Rockefeller University in New York City. Attic, now an industry consultant, is concerned that companies such as Facebook will use technology to identify individuals in public spaces without their knowledge or permission. So it's more of a big brother game we want to use on you folks. And this is from Public Integrity, which came out July 31st to be exact. So Center for Public Integrity.org, and I'm gonna try to hit down and see what else it has to say. I'm trying to find out, where are you? Okay, one moment. Okay. I can no longer count on being an anonymous person, he said, where I'm walking down the street. The tech calls for federal regulation to protect people's privacy because without it, Americans are left with a myriad of state laws. He said, and the state laws can be more easily manipulated by commercial interests. Facial recognition is here. Facial recognition is increasing. Retailers employ to identify shoppers, and bankers want to use a secure bank account and ATM. The internet thing, connecting thousands of everyday personal objects, from light bulbs to cars, it may be used in individual space to allow access to household devices. Churches already use facial recognition to track attendance at service. Government is relying on it as well. President Donald Trump staffed the U.S. Homeland Security Transition Team. I believe 4 executives tied to facial recognition firms. Law enforcement agencies run facial recognition programs using mugshots and driver's license photos to identify suspects. About half of adult Americans are included in facial recognition database maintained by law enforcement. Estimates the Center of Privacy and Technology at Georgetown University Law School. To tap the booming business, companies need something only Facebook has, a massive face database of faces. Facebook now has 2 billion monthly users who upload about 350 million photos every day, and practically infinite amount of data that Facebook can use to train its facial recognition software, according to a 2014 presentation by an engineer working on deepfakes at Facebook's in-house facial recognition project. When we invented facial recognition, there was no database. The tech said Facebook has a system that can recognize the entire population of the earth. Facebook said it doesn't have any plans to directly sell its database. We do not sell people's facial recognition template or make them available for use by developers or advertisers, and we have no plans to do so. Facebook spokesman Angus said in an email. Facebook currently uses facial recognition to organize photos and to support its research into artificial intelligence. When Facebook hopes will lead new platforms to place more focused targeted ads, according to public announcements made by the company. The more Facebook can recognize what's in the users' photographs using artificial intelligence, the more they can learn about users' hobbies, preferences, and interests. Valuable information for companies looking to pinpoint sale efforts. For example, if Facebook identifies a user and her friends hiking in a photo, it can use that information to place some hiking equipment or on her Facebook page, said Peter Larry Pullman, founder of the Pullman Institute, a privacy, security, research, and consulting group. The whole Facebook model is a commercial model, Pullman said, gathering information about people and basically selling them products because of that information. Facebook hasn't been consistent about what it plans to do with facial data. In 2012, at a hearing of the Senate Judiciary Committee on Privacy, Technology, and Law, then Chairman Al Franken, Democrat from Minnesota, asked Facebook, the managers of privacy and public policy, Rob Sherman, to assure the users company wouldn't share its face print database with third parties. Sherman declined. It is difficult to know in the future what Facebook will look like 5 or 10 years down the road, so it's hard to respond to that hypothetical, Sherman said. And in 2013, Facebook Chief Privacy Officer Aaron Agan told Reuters, I can say that we will never use facial recognition technology for any other purposes other than suggesting who to tag in photos. Absolutely not. Egan added, though, that if Facebook did use the technology for other purposes, the firm will give users control over it. BIPA, or BIPA, nearly a decade ago, when facial recognition was still in its infancy, Illinois passed Biometric Information Privacy Act of 2008 after a fingerprint scanning company went bankrupt, putting security of the biometric data the company collected in doubt. The law requires companies to obtain permission from the individual before collecting biometric data, including the retina and iris scan, fingerprint, voice print, or scan of hand of face geometry. It also requires companies to list the purpose and length of the time the data will be stored and include those details in a written biometric private policy. If the business violates the law, individuals can sue the company, a provision that no other state privacy law permits. The Illinois law is a very stringent law. Chad Marlowe, Policy Counsel of the American Civil Liberties Union, but it's not inherently an unreasonable law. Illinois wanted to protect its citizens from facial recognition technologies online that may include possibly Facebook's tax suggestions and applications. First introduced in 2010, tag suggestions allow Facebook users to label friends and family members in photos with the name using facial recognition. When a user tags a friend in a photo or selects a profile page, tag suggestions create a personal data profile that is used to identify that person in other photos of Facebook or in newly uploaded images. Facebook started quietly enrolling users in tag suggestions in 2010 without informing them obtaining their permission. By 2011, Facebook announced it had enrolled all users except in a few countries. That's what's upset Lackeys, who works in finance in Chicago, in a lawsuit against Facebook, which names 2 other plaintiffs. Lackeys alleges that every time he was tagged in an image or like a new profile picture, Facebook extracted from those photographs a unique face print or template of him containing his biometric identifiers, including his facial geometry, and identify who he was according to the lawsuit. Facebook subsequently stored Lackeys' biometric identifiers in his database. The other plaintiffs also claimed that by using data to build deepfakes, Facebook deprived them of monetary value of their biometric data. The statute carries penalties up to $5,000 per violation, which potentially could include thousands of Illinois residents. Lackeys declined an interview request. The law firm representing him, Chicago-based Edison DC, which specializes in suing technology companies over privacy violations. The firm founder J. Edison is a controversial figure. Some technologists and colleagues view him as an opportunist, a leech tarted up as a freedom fighter, according to New York Times profile. You can see how good this guy really is because Facebook and the New York Times aren't lovey-dovey when it comes to freedom, right? Facebook declined the Center for Public Integrity's request to comment. The lawsuit specifically but sent an email. Our work demonstrates our commitment to protecting over 210 million Americans who use our service. Facebook told the New York Times 2015 that the BIPA lawsuit is without merit and will defend ourselves vigorously. Facebook says users can turn off tag suggestions from critics, but the process is complex and making it likely the feature will remain active. And many Facebook users don't even know data about their likenesses are being stored. As a person who has been tagged, there should be some agreement, at least as is acceptable, before Facebook enrolls users in tag suggestions, said privacy researcher Pompano. But the train has left the station. 2016 to 21 days after the judge in the Lackeys case ruled against a Facebook motion that the Illinois law only applies in person scans, not images or video. The amendment to BIPA have been identified with defining a facial scan just that way. Others in the state Senate, national consumer groups such as World Privacy Forum and the Illinois Public Interest Research Group wrote letters to the opposition, and measures were withdrawn by sponsors. State Senator and Assistant Majority Leader Terry Link, Democrat from Vernon Hills. Link did not respond to requests for comment. Facebook has expressed support for the amendment, but won't confirm or deny their involvement in the attempt. The efforts fits a pattern, said Alvar Bedelia, executive of the Center of Privacy and Technology at Georgetown University. Their approach has been, if you sue us, it doesn't apply to us. If you say it does apply to us, we'll try to change the law, Bedelia said. Only laws like Illinois that could put some check on this authority, so it is no coincidence that Facebook would like to see this law undone. This is the strongest privacy law in the nation. If it goes away, that's the big deal, and it tells you state lobbying what Facebook is doing on their growing spending. And of course, in 2016, they spent $55,000 on fighting it in Florida, watching and all that. So there's a list on there. This is by the National Institute on Money and State Politics. Yes, you got interest groups that want to actually control you like minions. Absolutely. So I'm going to add that to the memo here just for a moment. But it's like this, my friend. You always got to be vigilant when you use these social media groups. That's how I am in these areas. So we'll continue on here. Facebook hidden lobbying. Facebook lobbying for federal government in earnest around 2011 when it was reported nearly 1.4 million by 2016. The amount grew more than 5 times to almost 8.7 million when Facebook lobbies on issues such as data security, consumer privacy, and tax reform. According to the Center for Responsive Politics, Facebook spends much less to influence state lawmakers. According to reports complied to the National Institute on Money and State Politics, they spent $670,895 on lobbying in states in 2016, a 64% jump from $373,388 in 2014. Facebook has an active presence in a handful of states, primarily New York, California, and New York, but has only hired its first lobbyist in Illinois for this year's session. Facebook prefers to work through trade association to influence policy. Sources in the Illinois legislature told the Center for Public Integrity that the BIPA amendment attempt, which would have redefined facial recognition, was led by CompTIA, a trade group that bills itself as the world's leading tech association. CompTIA declined to comment in detail, but confirmed Facebook is among its members. Facebook declined to comment about whether it was behind the amendment. The LLC lawyers asked for information about Facebook's lobbying related to BIPA. Facebook lawyers successfully requested the court to seal those records, keeping the information private. On the website, Facebook says members of 56 groups and 108 third-party organizations that works on issues related to technology and internet policy. CompTIA, despite acknowledging Facebook is a member, isn't on the list. At the Facebook annual shareholders meeting in Redwood City, California last month, more than 90% of the shares voted were opposed to a proposal that would require the company to provide more information about its political associations, including grassroots lobbying. CompTIA, which absorbed the Washington, D.C. tech advocacy group Tech America in 2015, employed one permanent lobbyist in Illinois, in contrast with Roosevelt Group, one Illinois super lobbyists, which last year represent lobbying powerhouses AT&T, Illinois, Payday Lender PLS, Financial Services, and influential Illinois Retail Gaming Operators Association. In August 2016, CompTIA published a blog post about the practical application of biometrics and labeled BIPA problematic because terms such as consent and facial recognition are vaguely defined as invites an avalanche of litigation. CompTIA made political contributions to the two non-candidate groups in 2016 in 2 states with the strictest privacy laws, Illinois and Texas, according to the Institute Money of State Politics. CompTIA gave $21,225 last year to the Illinois Democratic Party. Interesting there, huh? All right. CompTIA also gave $5,000 to the Republican Party in Texas, where Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton is charged with enforcing state biometric privacy regulations. According to the Institute, Texas enacted one of the stricter biometric privacy laws in the nation since it was signed in 2009 and requires companies to obtain individual permission to capture a biometric identifier as a facial image, but unlike Illinois law, it doesn't allow state residents to sue and leaves the enforcement authority solely to the Attorney General. The Texas Attorney General Office declined to comment on whether it has pursued lawsuits on biometric privacy violation. There's no indication that Paxton's office had ever completed an investigation, according to a review of records. Yeah, so that's something to really look at, friends. And I always find these things as a complete turnoff to an extent. And I just you gotta be really cautious, my friends, on what you get yourselves into, especially in the social media groups like Facebook and all those, because I've been always leery in those areas, even though I use some of these groups just to put the information out. You gotta be more thorough, more utilize it more than just use your personal profile. I guess that's how I see it, because if you use a personal profile, they can really take advantage of it, and that's what's really treacherous. So, hey, be smart, folks, in what you do in these social media groups, okay? There's others out there as well, which I do talk about on my show, what other places I go to. Check them out. They're more privacy friendly, okay? Okay, I'm going to chill a little bit, and I will return. Alright, so the next one we'll be addressing here, in reference to the Sanctions bill, now to law, which I was boldly against in good faith. It says here, this is by a site called Every American. It's WillieLoman.WorldPress.com. So, neoliberal news of the day. Came out yesterday. It says here, Trump caves in. Trump caves. Blackmailed by the colluding media. The president signs the unconstitutional sanctions bill demanded by AIPAC. It's by Scott Crichton. The Germans and the French and the whole European Union oppose this bill. Not only is unconstitutional and baseless in terms of justification of sanctions against Iran, Russia, and North Korea, but it levels sanctions against other nations in the EU if they dare to do business with Russia's energy sectors, which is the whole point of the bill. And yes, it was favored by AIPAC, and President Trump signed it all the same under duress. It says here the White House announced the signing shortly after 11 a.m. Eastern, saying the bill includes a number of clearly unconstitutional provisions that purport to displace the president's executive, no exclusive constitutional authority to recognize foreign governments, including their territorial bounds. In a separate statement, Trump said he believed the bill to be seriously flawed, but signed it anyway. Why the hell he signed it if it's seriously flawed? Still, the bill remains seriously flawed, particularly it encroaches on the executive branch's authority to negotiate. He said in the statement, Congress could not even negotiate a health care bill after 7 years of talking. By limiting the executive flexibility, this bill makes it harder for the United States to strike a good deal for the American people and will drive China, Russia, and North Korea much closer together. The CNN. Now, how about that? Knowing it's unconstitutional, the president says that it's so tormented by the colluding press, he signs it just the same. Probably because he knows if he didn't, they could impeach him after universal calls by complicit media and votes from the AIPAC-owned Congress cowards. The bill is nothing more than an attempt to continue the war and the Palestinian by different means on the grand chessboard. Be like Palestine, Pipelandistan. The stand. I like that. That was really good. Has nothing to do with Russia hacking anything, since obviously never happened, and recent developments proved it never happened. Has nothing to do with Iran trying to develop nuclear weapons, since they aren't, and they never tried to develop nuclear weapons. It has nothing to do with North Korea building a nuke to launch at the U.S., no matter how many lying late-night comedy pundits make jokes about it, trying to normalize the propaganda. And yes, AIPAC pushed for this bill, along with the Israel Anti-Boycott Act, which also targets the EU. Some might say this is a Tel Aviv flexing their muscle in the world in the face of growing opposition across the EU to their brutality and criminal activity in Palestine. Some might also say it got a little more than something to do with Russia helping Syria to keep Israel from stealing the Golan Heights, which they have coveted. Yes, I am fully aware of the implications of the use of that term for decades. Whatever the reason for this sudden absolute bipartisan agreement on the bill and its completely baseless justification in Congress, you cannot deny the fact that the complicit mainstream media serve as a sort of Democrats dangling over the herd of accidental king held by a single Israeli hair. Had Trump refused to sign a veto to the unconstitutional power grab by the AIPAC through Congress, they would simply gone around him and passed it anyway. And what they did, the press acting in collusion with the foreign power Israel, would attack Trump mercilessly, demanding his removal from office, based on their manufactured stories of him colluding with the foreign power Russia. I like this. See, it makes a lot of sense here, right? This bill is supported out in Congress. Can complicit media apologists take on it, has laid bare the sordid, rotting underbelly of American politics in the way that few others develop it have. Trump gives them what the masters of the universe want them in terms of regime changes in Venezuela, austerity in America, tax breaks for the super wealth, privatization campaigns without a rival to them to profit from. He's a neoliberal wet dream just short of them putting the Chicago ports in Oval Office. But that wasn't enough. The Russian reset had to be done, and Europe's sovereignty had to be challenged for their numerous discretions. The abomination will not hold. This coup conducted by a certain segment of society will not hold either, for we now make aggressive actions toward Russia, Iran, North Korea, and the whole European Union at once, so that the few greedy F's with enormous influence over the cowards in Congress can make their last desperate grasp at a tarnished brass ring. These sanctions will not force Russia into compliance with the new Middle East agenda. They will not bully European nations to buy LNG from us instead of Russia. They will not stop North Korea from developing defenses that keep greedy regime change, privatized central bankers at bay. And they will not isolate from Iran for the rest of the world. But they will isolate us, which is of no consequence to those who demand that Congress act unanimously in supporting of them against the better interests of their own constituents. I wonder that the Lackeys and the Israeli firsters have in mind for us next. Oh yes, that is an absolute fact, my friends, and this is why I would boldly oppose what has happened with this bill and the other one too, because why should we have a country tell us what to do and wipe our butts? And you know what, it's fun with even the folks that voted for these bills, okay, like this sanctions bill, like glam boy Marco Rubio and dumbed down stagnant trees, this quack Bill Nelson, who believes they're smarter than our Constitution. This is one of these guys that will spread their butt cheeks to AIPAC and the CFR and all those tyrannical buffoons that want to rule us with the iron fist. You know what? They are being exposed, but they are treasonous cowards. Plain and simple. Just an example. And don't get me wrong. Ted Deutsch signed it, which I supported it, voted for it, unacceptable, and dumbed down Debbie Watson the Schultz. I'm talking about the ones in Florida, for an example, but I know 3 opposed it in the House and 2 opposed it in the Senate. You figure it out. As far as I'm concerned, we gotta let these Sputniks know. No, we don't. The world does not revolve around any of those foreign influences of the United States and the Vatican, the Vatican City, okay, as well, and the UN, all those other globalist clowns. Okay, yeah, AIPAC is treason. I will say that out of respect. So, if you don't like it, too bad, because if you want to make a gripe, have merit, don't be a parrot. So, next thing I'm going to be talking about, which is some good news from Anti-War.com. And this one is about the AIPAC's Israel's Anti-Boycott Act. 69% oppose AIPAC's Israel Anti-Boycott Act from Anti-War.com by Grant Smith. Says here, formerly neutral Americans now oppose curbing Israel's boycott. A result from a comprehensive public opinion poll of 2,500 American adults fielded through Google surveys revealed widespread opposition to the top lobbying initiative of Israel's U.S. lobby in America, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee, or AIPAC. Question: Congress may pass the Israel Anti-Boycott Act to punish Americans up to $1 million in fines and 20 years in prison for economic boycotts of Israel over human rights violations. And 69.1% said, I don't support this law. 25.6% says, I support this law because they're a bunch of bend-over bobs as usual, probably hired fools. And 5.3% aren't so sure. Nearly 7 in 10 Americans oppose the Israel Anti-Boycott Act, H.R. 1697, in the House and Senate Bill 720 in the Senate, while 25.7% support the act and 5.2% submitted to other responses. The survey has an RMSE score of 5.9%. Was fielded from July 24th to August 1st. It is a significant change from the poll from the March 2017 poll, when 6.2% of Americans neither supported nor opposed such anti-boycott laws. According to analysis published on July 28th, the U.S. will be required for the very first time to promote exports from territories occupied by Israel since 1967 by opposing and sanctioning the UN and EU. Most countries consider Israel's occupation legal. If passed into law, the Israel Anti-Boycott Act will make Israel the only foreign country listed in key statutes designed to advance U.S. national security. So it'll be a blackmail. They're going to try to promote this. If you don't support this bill, you're going to be in, your country's going to be in jeopardy. You're going to use that fear factor from Edward Bernays' playbook propaganda. So just pay attention. Right? More troubling and proposed legislation demand the U.S. treat growing global boycott of Israel over endemic human rights violations as a U.S. national emergency under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Those subjected to the Israel Anti-Boycott Act could incur penalties up to $1 million in fines and 20 years in prison. One key senator has already backed away from the bill. Senator Kristen Gillibrand, Democrat from New York, claimed on Monday she did not support the Israel Anti-Boycott Act in its current form. The individual response to a statistically significant IRMF survey, including results filtered by age and region, may be accessed through Google. So that's good. So that's good news, and we gotta keep the pressure going, because this is another thing that would be one. It does violate free speech. Okay, it does, and it can jeopardize commerce as well on trade. This is what the AIPAC wants. They want us to be the little watchdog, little good boy. Go, you sit there, Fido. You just do easy town, okay? And they want to go, okay, master, we'll do that for you. And have us kiss the floor to walk. Give me a break. Like, if you people want to, what all due respect, it's nothing against the people of Israel in general, okay? It's just you got rogue elements in the government as well, just like every other part of the world. So oh, you guys are anti-Israel. You know what? Just wear a muzzle before you bring it to my attention, because you have no merit, it's baseless, it's null and void. I'll give you you give a P9 microphone. You figure it out. No, it's not sexual harassment. All right, so. Say no to the AIPAC bill, Israel Anti-Boycott Act, or call your servants and say hell no to it. And by the way, thumb down to the Watchman Show is one of them that they co-sponsor it. So call her out, including Blackmailed Rubio, and someone else. Like, look it up. All right. Finally, this one here has some great points. It says here, close all U.S. military bases on foreign soils by Kevin Z's and Margaret Flowers. And Anti-War I'll post this. Good site. Check it out, man. You should. They're a great group, antiwar.com. Donate money to them. Contact them. We follow each other on Twitter, which is very cool. So it says here, close all U.S. military bases on foreign soil. Coalition Against Foreign Military Bases, a new campaign focused on closing all U.S. military bases abroad. This campaign strikes at the foundation of the U.S. empire, competition in militarism, corporatism, and imperialism. We urge you to endorse this campaign. On the occasion of its announcement, the coalition issued a unity statement which describes its intent of raising public awareness and organizing nonviolent mass resistance against U.S. foreign bases. It further explained that the U.S. foreign military bases are the principal instruments of imperial global domination and environmental damage through wars of aggression and occupation, and that closure of the U.S. foreign military bases is one of the first necessary steps towards a just, peaceful, sustainable world. While the U.S. sought to be an imperial force beginning just after the U.S. Civil War, then escalates those efforts to turn the 20th century. It became a dominant empire globally after World War II, because it was during the time of decolonization when many traditional empires were forced to let their colonies become independent states. So while the U.S. is the largest empire of world history, it is not just a traditional empire, which nations are described as colonies of the U.S. empire. Nations remain independent, at least in name, while U.S. bases on their soil and serving as a client state of the United States. They are controlled through economic power of the U.S. World Bank and International Monetary Fund, which I believe the United States needs to get out of it completely. The U.S. has used regime change tactics, including assassination of military force, to keep its empire intact. Commentators have described the United States as an empire of bases. Chalmers Johnson wrote in 2004, as it reads here, as distinct from other peoples, most Americans do not recognize or do not want to recognize. The United States dominates the world through its military power. Due to American government secrecy, our citizens are often ignorant of the fact that our garrisons encircle the planet. The vast network of American bases of every continent except Antarctica actually constitutes a new form of empire, an empire of bases with its own geography, not likely to be taught in any high school geography class. Without grasping the dimensions of this globe, griddling-based world, one can't begin to understand the size and nature of the imperial aspirations or the degree to which a new kind of militarism is undermining our constitutional order. Our military deploys well over 500,000 soldiers, spies, technicians, teachers, dependents, and civilian contractors in other nations to dominate the oceans and seas of the world. We are creating some 13 naval task forces built around aircraft carriers whose names sum up to our martial heritage: Kitty Hawk, Constellation, Enterprise, John F. Kennedy, Nimitz, Dwight D. Eisenhower, Carl Vinson, Theodore Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, John C. Stennis, Henry S. Truman, which is an aircraft carrier, I've been on that, and Ronald Reagan. We operate numerous secret bases outside our territory to monitor what the people of the world, including our citizens, are saying, faxing, or emailing to one another. We don't know the exact number of U.S. military bases and outposts throughout the world. The Union statement says the United States maintains the highest number of military bases outside its territories, an estimate at almost 1,000, 95% of all foreign military bases in the world. In addition, the United States has 19 naval aircraft carriers and 15 more planned, each as part of the carrier strike group composed of roughly 7,500 personnel in the carrier wing of 65 to 70 aircraft, each which can be considered a floating military base. The annual Department of Defense Base Structure Report says the DoD manages a massive global real property portfolio consists of nearly 500,062 facilities, buildings, structures, and linear structures located on over 4,800 sites worldwide and covering over 24.9 million acres. They value DoD property located in 42 nations at over $585 billion. It's difficult to tell them this report of number of bases and military outposts, which led analysts like Tom Engelhardt to describe U.S. empire as an invisible empire of bases. He points out the U.S. military bases are rarely discussed in the media. It usually takes an incident, like the U.S. soldiers being attacked or U.S. aircraft being shot down, or for them to get any mention in the media. This is interesting. So he's making some great points here, and it's funny because that's the quote he said here. So make some great points here. Many of the bases remain from the previous war, especially World War II and the Korean War. According to the official information provided by the Department of Defense in its defense manpower data center, there are still 40,000 U.S. troops and 179 bases in Germany, and over 50,000 troops in Japan and 109 bases, and tens of thousands of troops and hundreds of bases all over Europe. Over 28,000 U.S. troops are represented in 85 bases in South Korea. All have been since 1957. All right, so number of bases always changing as the U.S. seeks to continue to expand its empire of bases. Just this week, the U.S. is opening military bases base in South Korea opening. Like, come on. Now it's like getting really ludicrous. U.S. Post reports we rebuild the entire city from scratch, said Colonel Walker W. Mueller, garrison commander of Camp Humphreys, one of the U.S. military bases. Sorry about that. I just one of the U.S. military largest overseas construction projects was relayed across Washington. The 3,454-acre base would stretch from Key Bridge to national parks, from Arlington National Cemetery to the Capitol. Wow. Now, the $11 billion base is beginning to look like the garrison that military planners envisaged decades ago. The 8th Army is moved its headquarters here this month, and there are about 25,000 people based there, between family members and contractors. There are apartment buildings, sports fields, playgrounds, and a water park, and an 18-hole golf course with the general's houses looking over the greens. There is a warrior zone with Xboxes and PlayStations, pool tables, and dartboards, and a tavern for those old enough to drink. Starting this August, there will be 2 elementary schools, a middle school, and a high school. A new 68-bed military hospital replaced the one at Youngstown is close to completion. Also this week, it was reported that the United States had created 10 new military bases in Syria. This was done without permission of the Syrian government and was exposed by Turkey in protests against the United States. There is a cost to these bases, not only the $156 billion in annual funds spent on them, but also the conflicts they created between the United States and the people around the world. There have been protests against the presence or development of U.S. bases in Okinawa, Italy, Jeju Island, Korea, Diego Garcia, Cyprus, Greece, and Germany. Some of the bases are illegal, as the Unity Statement points out. The base that the U.S. has illegally occupied the longest over the century is Guantanamo Bay, whose existence constitutes an imposition of the empire and a violation of international law. Cuba has called for the return of Guantanamo since 1959. David Vine, the author of Base Nation, described how these bases, which seeks the U.S. power around the globe, create political tensions, are a source for military attacks, and create alliances with dictators. They bring sexual violence, displace indigenous people, and destroy the environment. The unity of the coalition against foreign military bases concludes by urging all of us to unite to close U.S. bases around the world, because the U.S. Foreign military bases are not in defense of U.S. national or global security. They are a military expression of U.S. intrusion in the lives of sovereign countries on behalf of the dominant financial, political, and military interests of the ruling elite, whatever invited in or not by domestic interests. They have agreed to be a junior partners, no country, no peoples, no government, and they claim to be able to make decisions totally in the interest of other people, with foreign troops on their soil within interests antagonistic to the national purpose. Please endorse the statement and join the campaign to remove U.S. military bases on foreign soil. And I have to say, yes, I do support this. And, I say this: give them back your land. Don't just give them the base. Decimate it. Plain and simple. Decimate it. That's how I see it, because when we're going to stop being an empire, people don't realize, when you study this world more thoroughly, they're not attacking us because of our freedoms, because you're hanging out in other countries' territory and trying to dictate, tell them what to do and how to think, and intimidating them. That's completely unacceptable. What would happen if we had China or North Korea have their bases all over the United States, Canada, and in Canada, okay, all other parts of the world? Would it be, oh, you're coming in, you're invited? No, they're going to say, get the hell out of here. It would probably be a full-blown war. Something to really think about, my friends. So I don't want to hear this double-speak rhetoric and get defensive. We need more military bases. We need to go to other countries and take care of their problems. All right, it's completely a sham. Foreign entanglement is dangerous. Even George Washington, Jefferson, and many others warned us about it. And I don't know why a lot of folks out there are still assuming that we have to do it for someone's interest, including the Middle East as well. We shouldn't have those bases. The United States should never have those bases in Syria. It was never contended. To me, that's an act of war. and the good people are going to suffer for the people here. So you know what? End the foreign wars. Support common defense rather than imperial offense. Okay? So plain and simple, no exceptions. If you're going to have a defense mechanism, don't even waste your time around me because you'll be contaminating space once again. Okay? So, man, it's a little bit of a long episode there, my friends, and I do have to apologize for that. That's okay. So I'd like to thank everyone for listening. Plus, feel free to download and share this via your social media networks. Alright? If you have any questions, comments, or you want to send me something that's interesting that you want to check out, whatever you do, please address your correspondences with decorum, which I gotta say many of you have done, and I thank you. Okay, because I love honorable discussions, and if I have a disagreement or see something I haven't addressed, I always give the thumbs up because you folks have the right to express your views, and I like it because it's an honorable discussion. Alright, you can hit me on Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Tumblr, YouTube, Dreams Network, Scene.life, Minds.com, FutureNet.club, or Patreon.com/LowKeyLove3. If you want to be a patron, a donor, hit that site. $5, $1 a month, that'd be great. Okay, so if you do it, awesome. If not, it's understandable. In addition, you can email me at LokiLuck3@gmail.com, or you encrypted ones out there, LokiLuck03@protonmail.com. Yeah, it's a long episode, a little over an hour and a half. That's a rarity for me, but that's how it goes. Alright, my friends, once again, thank you for your time. Please always remember that demoniac resistance is healthy for the soul and can liberate humanity. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Keep on spreading love and may your guardian spirits be with you.